morning and welcome to Herald Now. I'm Michael Morra. It's Wednesday, the 24th of September. On the show today, more bad news for the government. The Herald's mood of the Boardroom survey doesn't rank Christopher Luxon or Nicola Willis in the top 10 ministers. We'll have reaction to this and more from the mood of the Boardroom throughout the day. Donald Trump says paracetamol in pregnancy can cause autism. Medical professionals here don't agree. Dr. Brian Betty, the chairman of General Practice New Zealand, is with us in 20 minutes. A big boost for our biggest tennis tournament. Former world number one Naomi Osaka has announced she's coming back to Auckland this summer. Tournament director Nico Lamprun joins me after 8, plus acts Karen Chaw and the Greens' Ricardo Menendez march on a breakthrough in an immigration case and changes to the holiday rules. But first, here's Neva with the news.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Energy issues are weighing on the minds of business leaders. The Herald's annual Mood of the Boardroom survey shows they're less optimistic about the economy than they were a year ago. Rising energy prices are the biggest domestic concern, ahead of issues like inflation, infrastructure, government policy and cyber threats. General geopolitical volatility is the biggest international worry, ahead of the specific factors like US-China tariffs and US tariffs. Concerns changes around leave entitlements could see workers encouraged to take cash instead of holidays. The replacement of the Holidays Act will see a raft of changes, including flexibility of being able to take only the hours needed off work rather than a full day. There will also be more flexibility for workers to cash up leave if they have a large balance. Workers' First Union General Secretary Dennis Marga says many businesses could exploit workers to take the money over annual leave, especially with these tough economic conditions. He says they want workers to take leave and rest. Donald Trump has used his UN address to say recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas. Britain and France have formally recognised the state, joining the likes of Australia and Canada. Trump has lashed out at many nations during his speech at the UN General Assembly, touching on climate change, immigration and global conflicts. He says the act of UN members to recognise Palestine encourages continued conflict in the Middle East.
Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Foreign Minister Winston Peters is also in New York and will tell the UN on Saturday morning what our approach to a Palestine state is. The government's being urged to let the Reserve Bank do its job without interference. It's set to announce the new governor of the central bank this afternoon. Oliver Hartwich, the executive director of the New Zealand Initiative business think tank, says the Reserve Bank needs to maintain its independence and remain focused on addressing inflation. He says government politicians also need to let the central bank do their job. Job seekers are continuing to feel the impact of the weaker economy and labour market when it comes to the salaries they're being offered. Latest data from job website Seek shows advertised salaries have risen just 2% in the past year. That's well below the rate of inflation and is a stark contrast to the 5.1% rise in salaries recorded in the same period 2 years earlier. Seek New Zealand manager Rob Clark says it's a reflection of lower demand for labour.
As we have seen for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's just been a slow decline in the growth rate of average salaries, which have increased, but just at a slowing rate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Naomi Osaka will return to the ASB Tennis Classic next year, and what she hopes is another crack at bungee jumping off Auckland Sky Tower. Her tournament debut in January ended when she retired injured from the final while up a set. England will come to Australia with a 6-pronged battery of pace bowlers in a 16-strong squad as they attempt to regain cricket's ashes. Harold Dickie Bird, one of cricket's most famous umpires, has died aged 92. He stood in 66 tests and featured in 3 World Cup finals.
You're watching Herald Now. I'm Michael Morra. Well, US President Donald Trump, who once suggested injecting bleach as a strategy for fighting COVID, has made another ludicrous claim. But his latest health advice is likely even more damaging. He first hinted at his plan for the historic health announcement during, of all places, the memorial service for murdered Conservative activist Charlie Kirk. He warned pregnant women to avoid taking paracetamol, baselessly linking the painkiller with a rise in autism among children. That's despite medical professionals long citing paracetamol as among the safest painkillers to take during pregnancy. Trump said autism rates had surged in recent years by 400% and described autism as a horrible, horrible crisis. He went on to state that autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. What he didn't mention was that in the US, the definition of autism was broadened in 2013, meaning more people now qualify for an autism diagnosis. Plus, there is also greater recognition of the condition, and as a result, more people are being tested. Trump also weighed in on the safety of some childhood vaccines, prompting Auckland vaccinologist Helen Harris to label Trump's claims, quote, a load of nonsense. But Trump isn't that concerned about trashing science or the legitimacy of clinical trials. This is all part of a political strategy. He's playing into the hands of those who mistrust official advice and expertise. But given his power, his influence, and his global reach, these types of announcements are dangerous. Women who have a fever during pregnancy, who delay or refuse to take paracetamol, can harm themselves or their unborn child. And if everyone dodged vaccines, we'd be dealing with all sorts of outbreaks of preventable diseases. Remember the 2019 measles outbreak in Samoa? 83 people died. Most of them were unvaccinated children and babies. So if you want health advice, talk to a doctor. Don't listen to the Donald. We'll have more on this shortly.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, a cloudier but mild start across the top of the country. Plenty of wet weather as well, running through Northland, Auckland, the Bay of Plenty through the day today. Clearer skies as we head down towards Canterbury and Otago to kick things off, but another front will bring some wetter weather in towards the south as we head through the daytime. But some of the wettest weather is up in the north as that band of rainfall runs across the top of the North Island. Some heavy bursts and the risk of even some thunderstorms through parts of Northland and Auckland. We've got a collection of severe weather watches up north through the daytime today and for the Bay of Plenty even through into Thursday. Down south though, we start off generally dry and clear. More cloud pushing towards Fiordland, some showers in towards Stewart Island as well, but generally a dry day for places like Dunedin and Queenstown. Early cloud through Canterbury should break up and clear off to leave some fine spells of sunshine and highs in Christchurch of around about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 up in Blenheim. More cloud for the North Island, but generally dry through Wellington. There will be some showers though remaining for Taranaki and Manawatu, but the wetter weather is up here in the north with some particularly heavy rainfall running through towards the Bay of Plenty throughout the day today, but also through towards Thursday. We've got that watch in place for you. And it's a cloudy, wet day across Auckland, Northland and the Waikato region, with that rainfall turning to showers, but still with some fairly heavy and perhaps thundery bursts even into this afternoon.
The latest New Zealand Herald Mood of the Boardroom survey is out, capturing what CEOs and senior executives from across New Zealand think about the government. One of the headlines is how poorly Christopher Luxon and Nicola Willis ranked compared to their colleagues. Let's go to Garth Bray from Business Desk, who's with us now live from the Quarters Hotel in Auckland, where those leaders are gathering. So first of all, Garth, how many company bosses participated in this survey?
Morning, Michael. Yeah, look, it's pretty packed behind me at the Quarters, as you can probably see. They opened the doors a couple of minutes ago. We expect most of the 150 participants in this survey, about 125 of them CEOs of major companies in New Zealand, another couple of dozen or so big wheels in industry or directors on boards, and also Business New Zealand Sentiment Survey has contributed to this. So several hundred responses here. You can just hear the MC cranking up to welcome everybody, so I hope everybody at home can still hear me. So a pretty representative sample, and as you say, some fairly harsh words there, particularly for the top of the cabinet table.
Yeah, just let's go into that a bit more. I mean, how did Luxon and Willis rank compared to their colleagues?
Yeah, look, also, so Christopher Luxon, Prime Minister, 2.96 out of 5, with
Wow.
1 being terrible and 5 being great, and that put him at 15th rank out of his cabinet ministers. So basically, almost not making the first team. his deputy and foreign finance minister, Nicola Willis, coming in just over 3 out of 5, and she's ranked at 13. I think this is the first time in the survey that the Prime Minister and Finance Minister have not been in the top 10 of Cabinet Ministers, which is a real slap, I suppose, from the top table of business towards the top table of the government.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty significant findings. So does the survey kind of go into detail about what CEOs or business leaders want to see from Luxon to improve his flagging fortunes?
Yeah, I would guess if you break it down, particularly on Willis and then on that poor score, there's 43% of business leaders say the growth strategy that she is at the head of. Remember, this is the year of growth of the government, and she is a minister with that particular responsibility. 43% of business leaders in the survey say it's just not doing the business. Another 22% weren't sure. So that's 2/3 of people just either not sure or saying, no, you haven't got it right. On the other hand, talking more broadly and about Luxon, CEOs are saying we need a new playbook here. We need one or two really big ideas to galvanise people. You're just not firing in that respect. Where's your moonshot? What's going to, what is actually going to double exports over the next 10 years? Where's your big idea? And I guess after that, there's probably just a fair bit of malaise about the general state of the economy, although, confidence is rising there. I think it's about a 2.81 out of 5 on a scale of 1 to 5 there. That is down, though, from last year's score of 3.2. So it's been a long winter. I mean, I wore the brown tie today because there's no green shoots. It's more like dead leaves.
Fair enough, mate. Someone who is firing, though, Erica Stanford, rated as being very impressive, and Winston Peters is also up as well. Why are they so popular?
That's a good question. I mean, Erica Stanford placed top in this last year. She's held on to that position, so, gold star and on track to Ducks. I guess two very tricky portfolios. Education, we've had teacher strikes running. There's major reform going on there around NCEA. She's having to sell some hard decisions like getting rid of art history, which hasn't gone down well at our house, I can tell you. But more broadly, trying to shape up an education system that leads to a stronger economy. She's also got the immigration portfolio, which can be a lightning rod, but we've seen, with these golden visas and various other programs that have been introduced, a bit of support from business. So you'd say that she's doing well. Winston Peters, he's doing okay on the world stage, and 78% of boards are regularly considering geopolitics, they say, when they make their decisions. So I guess they figure that he's a safe pair of hands for that.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, so what about some surprises? Were there any ministers who kind of shot up or who appeared in that sort of, top 10 that took you by surprise?
You'd have to say Chris Penk will be looking at this. Now, he is the North of Auckland MP who's responsible for building and construction. He's a minister outside Cabinet, but he's placed in that top 10 of rated ministers. And things like that just might get the chatter going that, hey, buddy, it's time for this guy to be considered for a Cabinet role. I would say he'd probably be your top bolter out of this pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating stuff. Well, Garth Braith from Business Desk, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the morning. And for more on the mood of the boardroom, go to nzherald.co.nz. And now, if you've got any feedback on any of the topics we're discussing today, flick us an email, heraldnow@nzherald.co.nz. That is heraldnow@nzherald.co.nz. We'd love to have your feedback. Right, well, there's been a breakthrough in a long-running immigration case involving a Christchurch chef's 10-year struggle to get approval for her Down syndrome son to come to New Zealand to live with her. Last month, I reported on the plight of Prince and her son, Jap Sahib. Prince and her son, Jap, together at home in India. They've been praying for an outcome that would allow them to be together in New Zealand. But Jap's diagnosis of Down syndrome has so far prevented that.
So immigration told me your son is Down syndrome. So he is a burden on taxpayers. So they don't want him to give visa.
Prince has New Zealand residency. She's worked as a chef in Christchurch for more than a decade. Jap came to Christchurch in 2014, but his application to stay with his mum on a student visa was rejected. Jap didn't meet health standards. In short, he was deemed to be a burden on the health and education system.
Because New Zealand gives me everything except my child.
Jap returned to India where his grandmother looked after him. Subsequent requests to get Jap a visitor visa were made. Immigration New Zealand says these applications were also declined due to unresolved custody issues, concerns about his visitor status and the potential impact on New Zealand's health and education services. Prince is now back in India to care for Jap. Her mother has health issues and can't support her grandson anymore. And Prince has claimed Jap's dad has long-standing alcohol addiction issues. So you think your son would be in danger if he had to stay with his dad?
Yeah. After alcohol, he's a different person.
Prince says she's not expecting a free ride. What do you say to that claim that your son coming to New Zealand would be a burden?
Honestly, I request them. I am able to take his responsibilities. I don't ask to government to pay for my son. I am very capable to look after him financially as well. So I really request to them, please let him come with and stay with me, because without a child, it is very hard to live as a mother.
The final move in what's been a long-running immigration dispute is an application for ministerial intervention. Associate Minister Chris Penk will have the final say on whether Prince and her boy can return to Christchurch together. So there's been a positive outcome in this case. A couple of days ago, I got news that Penk's office had sent a letter to Prince informing her of a fairly stunning turnaround in this case. He would grant her son Jap residency. Our panel this morning is ACT's Karen Chaw and the Minister for Children and Green MP Ricardo Menendez-March. Thanks so much for being with us, guys. Well, first of all, Ricardo, I mean, you were the one who actually asked the Minister to intervene in this case. You must be pretty pleased with this result for Prince and Jap.
Yeah, I'm really stoked that we've got this outcome. Tragically, there are so many families that right now are facing separation from their disabled children due to a long-standing policy that this government has actually made worse. No one should have to go through what Prince did. You can tell that she was suffering for almost a decade because of the separation, and so we're just really glad to be able to reunite them in the country. So,
Ricardo, is this precedent-setting, this decision? Because we hear all the time about how many of these cases get kicked back, essentially.
It's a positive precedent, and it shows that where there's a will, there is a way. We're now calling on Chris Penk, Erica Stanford and the rest of the government to stop discriminating disabled children who deserve to be with their families, many of them being the workers that we keep talking about wanting in this country to settle long term.
Yeah, so now your position on this is that you would scrap this policy of acceptable health. I mean, where do you sit on this, Karen?
Look, there are rules there for a reason. We have to make sure that when people are coming into this country, that unfortunately, and as sad as it is to say this, that they can add value to the country and not take away resources that are very limited at the moment, even for people who are currently here in our country.
But isn't that part of the problem? I mean, why don't we have the additional teacher supports in those classrooms to assist people like Jap so families can be reunited? I mean, it's not fair to sort of blame poor resourcing.
Look, I know Erica has had a huge increase in funding around that teacher support and that we are really focusing in that space to make sure that young people in classrooms do have the support that they need. That has been a focus for Erica in the education space and we're progressing quite positively there.
Okay, just so while we're on the topic of immigration, Ricardo, new rules to make it easier for skilled migrants to get residency here in New Zealand. Business community is very pleased about this. Where do you stand on it?
We support greater pathways to residency for migrants. The reality is that for too long we have created what we call a guest worker scheme, where migrants come on a few years and then they're expected to go back, and then eventually the business may want to attract them again after a few years later. It kind of doesn't make sense. What is concerning, though, is to see the coalition fighting over a pretty common sense policy, and we should be fighting against any political party whipping up anti-migrant rhetoric to just score political points in the way New Zealand First has done, and it's concerning the coalition does not seem to be on the same page on this.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Jones, Karen, told me on this program yesterday that he was worried about, quote, New Zealand being flooded with migrants.
Look,
Do you support that sort of
I
rhetoric?
can't control what New Zealand First
Yeah,
is saying.
but do you support that sort of rhetoric?
I actually wouldn't say that. I'm married to a person who came over here as a refugee and who has contributed to this country tremendously, and so has his family. We have to make sure that we are supporting skilled migrants to come here and to be able to lay their roots here and create families here and have stability here. And I think that this is a really positive step to bringing in those skills and also keeping skills from people who have been here for a very long time and contributed to this country. That's not something that I would say, but what I would also say is we do have the ability to pull the agree to disagree clause, and New Zealand First has done that.
It's pretty rare though, isn't it?
Yes, it's very rare, but New Zealand First has always spoken to this issue that way, and it's probably no surprise. But what I would say is we really do support and act, making sure that we are supporting skilled people who come into this country and really add value to this country.
Is there any evidence, though? I mean, one of the central arguments by New Zealand First here is that they're saying that, oh, well, when these migrants come in and they get residency, they then jet off to Australia. I mean, Ricardo, are you aware of evidence that supports those claims?
The data does not support that people who are coming here on some of these roles will just jet off to Australia. And I think if we want to make New Zealand a place where people want to stay, we could be doing things like supporting vocational education. We could be creating good wages in this country so that we give people a reason to stay. New Zealand First can't have it both ways, where they claim that we should be training New Zealanders first, while at the same time having a government that is gutting vocational education, one of the pathways to train people in trades that we're now having to attract from overseas. So if New Zealand wants to support people to stay here, they could be starting by fighting against the changes to vocational education that National has brought in, instead of just scoring political points and using terms like being flooded with migrants, when they've got no evidence about what they're trying to back.
Yeah, I mean, very sort of politicised statements, for sure. I mean, let's go on to the new holiday rules that were announced just yesterday, Brooke Van Velden. So, yeah, where do you sit on this? I mean, it means that, you know, part-timers essentially now have to accrue that time. They don't get the 10 days of sick leave straight up.
Yeah, look, it's a fairer system across the board. You earn your leave based on how much you work, and it actually simplifies the system for businesses to make sure that we can get the pay system right. This has cost our country a lot in the past, where this complex, complicated system with so many different ways of calculating how to pay out leave has ended up in court cases. So we want to make sure that it's simple, it's fair across the board to make sure that you are being paid based on how much you work.
Yeah, but there's some pretty big concerns from some of the unions, First Union, for example. I mean, Ricardo, what do you make of this? There seems to be some positives and some negatives, but where do you sit on this?
Yeah, let's make it clear. There's two different things: simplifying our leave system and then gutting sick leave for part-time workers. Effectively, all this will do, particularly for women, people coming off the benefit, and young people who are entering part-time work, they'll have less sick leave entitlement. They will be showing up sick to work, getting their colleagues sick. I can't see how that is useful productivity for an employer. And at the end of the day, no one benefits from having less sick leave entitlements, as part-time workers will now have under this change.
Hey, look, there's some positives there for women, and honestly, part-time workers can be male or female. This got nothing to do with women. Categorising people in that way when it comes to a fairer pay system based on how many hours you work is just ridiculous.
I just gave you
but
three
I would
examples
say, but I would say the positives for females is now you don't have to wait to be paid at full rate for your holiday pay when you come back from maternity leave. That will start as soon as you come back from maternity leave. You'll be able to take that holiday pay at full pay. Casual workers will now be better off, and we'll also be calculating leave as you go, rather than waiting for that leave to be paid out at the end of the year, which is why sometimes when you get your holidays, you are usually paid a bit more. It simplifies the system to make sure that it's fairer for everybody across the board.
But you mentioned people, turning up to work sick because they don't have that leave accrued. I mean, I have heard claims that it could drive people onto the benefit. Do you agree with that sort of argument?
It could push people out of work, right? If you're feeling like you have to show up sick to work, you're not going to be performing as well. And, it's not just women who are affected. People coming off the benefit, the very same people the government talks about wanting to get off the benefit, often enter part-time work as their first step into employment. Despite all the spin from Karen around simplifying things, the truth is that this is gutting sick leave entitlements for part-time workers. When you're sick, you're not just sick part-time, you're sick for a whole day, and so it doesn't make sense to just gut sick leave for those people that are working less than 40 hours.
Look, they'll get the same amount as everyone else. They'll accrue it based on how much they're working. But what I would say is that this is a real positive for workers and for employees. We got heard over and over again, when that 10-day sick day came in for part-time workers, it made it really difficult for some business owners to make a decision whether to hire someone part-time or not, based on those 10 days sick leave. It added an extra pressure to employers. So this will actually create more opportunities for businesses to take on part-time workers and know it's not going to cost them in the long run.
Okay, guys, we've got to leave it there. Positives and negatives, thank you very much for joining me in the studio on Herald Now this morning. Karen Shaw and Ricardo Menendez-March from the Green Party. Next, Donald Trump says paracetamol can cause autism. Dr. Brian Betty, the chair of General Practice New Zealand, says that's wrong. Dr. Betty is next. Plus, Jacinda Ardern has appeared on one of the biggest TV shows in the US.
You Do It DIY can make your new dream kitchen a reality. As a trusted Kiwi manufacturer for 44 years, You Do It has made it easy to design, order and assemble your own dream kitchen, offering a range of colour options and flexible sizing. With excellent online support, our customers all agree that You Do It makes DIY easy, delivering superb quality at a great price. Get your project started today at newsroom.co.nz.
We have completed 4 builds with GJ. Every time we want to think of building, we always go back to GJ.
It's a really good experience throughout the whole process.
They deliver what they promise on, and it feels like working with a family member. It's very easy and trustworthy to work with GJ.
I'm Hayden Scott, and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life, I was a chef. Did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
You're watching Herald Now, I'm Michael Morrow. Well, Donald Trump has linked paracetamol to autism, urging pregnant women to avoid the painkiller at all costs, something doctors say is not only baseless, but downright dangerous.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that, acetaminophen, is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good.
Wow, okay, so Tylenol is the other name for paracetamol that we have here in New Zealand. So I'm joined now by Brian Betty, GP and Chair of General Practice New Zealand. Brian, great to have you with us. So is there any evidence at all that links paracetamol and also to autism?
Look, we need to be very clear on this, Michael. There is no credible evidence that paracetamol, which is what we have in New Zealand, is linked to autism. I think this verges on outrageous what's actually happened here. And certainly every credible medical body across the world has come out and said there is no foundation to this claim, and it is absolutely a more dangerous claim. And I think we have to be very, very careful about what President Trump has said here.
So can you explain why Trump, in the face of multiple peer-reviewed evidence and research over many years, could have reached a conclusion like this?
Well, look, obviously that's a complex question. I mean, this is a president who claimed that injecting bleach during COVID would cure COVID. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, Robert Kennedy Jr., his Secretary of Health, he's put in as a vaccine skeptic, that is well known, is very skeptical of a lot of the science, and that has had a big influence here in what's actually occurred. And as I said, I mean, we need to be very, very careful about what's been said here because of the potential dangers of what's been said during pregnancy.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that. I mean, the issue here is that the naive, or those who have a distrust of the medical profession in general, may dodge paracetamol use. I mean, is that dangerous, particularly for women?
Look, there's two sides to this. One, fever during pregnancy is potentially dangerous, especially during the first trimester. It has been associated with some congenital defects and has been associated with brain development issues. Later on in pregnancy, issues around miscarriage, issues with the fetus itself, it does need treatment. So fever on its own, regardless of the cause, can cause harm to both the baby and to the mum. So it does need to be treated. Now, paracetamol is the safest medication we have to do that. The alternatives, such as Brufen or aspirin, are known to be actually problematic and actually have been associated with potential harm in pregnancy in studies and are not recommended. Therefore, we do need to treat fever. Paracetamol is the safest thing we have to do that. And to not treat fever is potentially opening the baby and the mother to potential medical harm. This is problem with what's actually been said.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you've been a GP for a long time, Brian, and we've spoken on many occasions on various issues over the year. I mean, personally, as a GP, does this sort of thing make you angry when Trump comes out and says stuff like this, which is clearly baseless on a world stage?
It does. It does make me angry, and it makes a lot of my colleagues angry that we've got back into the space of denying the science, of saying that science doesn't have a role to play, and we can just say what we feel at a particular point in time. I mean, this takes us back to the 19th century and snake oil, the smelling of snake oil, that it was not based on any evidence whatsoever. And we've fallen into the space where it's almost science denying that's going on, when we should be making decisions based on the best scientific evidence we have. It is, I think, distressing. I think it does make us angry, and it causes potential harm, and this is the actual issue we've got here.
Very well said. That's Brian Betty, GP and Chair of General Practice New Zealand. Thank you very much for joining us to clarify the situation for our viewers and listeners this morning. It is 7:33. Let's go to Neva with the news.
Herald NOW News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Energy issues are weighing on the minds of business leaders. The Herald's annual Mood of the Boardroom survey shows they're less optimistic about the economy than they were a year ago. Rising energy prices are the biggest domestic concern, ahead of issues like inflation, infrastructure, government policy and cyber threats. General geopolitical volatility is the biggest international worry, ahead of the specific factors like US-China tariffs and US tariffs. Concerns changes around leave entitlements could see workers encouraged to take cash instead of holidays. The replacement of the Holidays Act will see a raft of changes, including flexibility of being able to take only the hours needed off work rather than a full day. There will also be more flexibility for workers to cash up leave if they have a large balance. Workers' First Union General Secretary Dennis Marga says many businesses could exploit workers to take the money over annual leave, especially with these tough economic conditions. He says they want workers to take leave and rest. Donald Trump has used his UN address to say recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas. Britain and France have formally recognised the state, joining the likes of Australia and Canada. Trump has lashed out at many nations during his speech at the UN General Assembly, touching on climate change, immigration and global conflicts. He says the act of UN members to recognise Palestine encourages continued conflict in the Middle East.
Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Foreign Minister Winston Peters is also in New York and will tell the UN on Saturday morning what our approach to a Palestine state is. The government's being urged to let the Reserve Bank do its job without interference. It's set to announce the new governor of the central bank this afternoon. Oliver Hartwich, the executive director of the New Zealand Initiative business think tank, says the Reserve Bank needs to maintain its independence and remain focused on addressing inflation. He says government politicians also need to let the central bank do their job. Job seekers are continuing to feel the impact of the weaker economy and labour market when it comes to the salaries they're being offered. Latest data from job website Seek shows advertised salaries have risen just 2% in the past year. That's well below the rate of inflation and is a stark contrast to the 5.1% rise in salaries recorded in the same period 2 years earlier. Seek New Zealand manager Rob Clark says it's a reflection of lower demand for labour.
As we have seen for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's just been a slow decline in the growth rate of average salaries, which have increased, but just at a slowing rate.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, a cloudier but mild start across the top of the country. Plenty of wet weather as well, running through North and Auckland. The Bay of Plenty through the day today. Clearer skies as we head down towards Canterbury and Otago to kick things off. But another front will bring some wetter weather in towards the south as we head through the daytime. But some of the wettest weather is up in the north as that band of rainfall runs across the top of the North Island. Some heavy bursts and the risk of even some thunderstorms through parts of Northland and Auckland. We've got a collection of severe weather watches up north through the daytime today and for the Bay of Plenty even through into Thursday. Down south though, we start off generally dry and clear. More cloud pushing towards Fiordland, some showers in towards Stewart Island as well, but generally a dry day for places like Dunedin and Queenstown. Early cloud through Canterbury should break up and clear off to leave some fine spells of sunshine and highs in Christchurch of around about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 up in Blenheim. More cloud for the North Island, but generally dry through Wellington. There will be some showers, though, remaining for Taranaki and Manawatu. But the wetter weather is up here in the north, with some particularly heavy rainfall running through and towards the Bay of Plenty throughout the day today, but also through and towards Thursday. We've got that watch in place for you. And it's a cloudy, wet day across Auckland, Northland and the Waikato region, with that rainfall turning to showers, but still with some fairly heavy and perhaps thundery bursts even into this afternoon.
I'm Michael Morrow. Great to have you with us this morning on Herald Now. Time to talk business thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. Garth Bray from Business Desk joins me again now. So Garth, some in the haulage sector are getting a vibe that the economy might have turned a corner. Why is this?
That's right, Michael. Look, I guess those haulage companies, the listed ones, your Freightways, your Main Freight, because they're picking up and putting down goods, they're a bit of an indicator of how well the economy is doing. And Freightways managed to chalk up a record $13.20 share price when trading in Finis last night. So their CEO, Mark Trough here, who I actually saw here, was just having a chat before, is saying, look, hey, maybe we've sort of turned the corner here. It's been a tough 2.5 years. They're kind of still waiting for the tailwind, but they managed to book, I think, 6.6% revenue growth in a period, remember when we saw a 4.9% drop in GDP in the last quarter when everyone got that surprise. So just a bit of an indication there from that listed freight company that things are picking up. Don Braid, probably a little bit, he's the main freight CEO, a little bit more cautious. I think they've found that they're going pretty tough, but particularly domestically. Obviously, they trade, internationally. They're well represented in a lot of overseas markets as well. But just here saying, look, we're starting to see a bit of regional recovery. That's that milk money coming through.
Okay, well, a hint of positivity, that's what we want to hear at the moment, right? Now, Biolumic, why is Fonterra so interested in this?
Right, this is a little startup company that Business Desk has taken a look at today. It's based in Palmerston North, and they basically use UV therapy to perform changes to seeds that others might use genetic modification for, which is obviously a lot more complicated and comes with a whole bunch of restrictions. Effectively, they're just putting seeds on a sunbed, I suppose, but using targeted UV in very sharp ways to sort of change gene expressions. They've managed to, or they're working on a prototype that would increase the potency of ryegrass, basically, make it more fat-bearing, and obviously, as we know, cows eat grass. New Zealand pasture farming is pretty much the envy of the world. So something like this is pretty interesting. They've got a joint venture running with Fonterra. They're also taking a look at how to do rice better, and they've got some trials underway here and in India next year that would look at potentially reducing the amount of water you'd need, the way you'd have to flood fields, and that in turn reduces the amount of methane that gets produced by rice paddies when they get flooded. So, I mean, for a wee company, Biolumic, it's privately held, it's a startup, but I guess there's some talk there that this could be like your next Halter or your next tracksuit, one of those startups that suddenly shoots to prominence and is worth $1 billion. No numbers on it yet, but pretty promising results there and well worth a read.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly one to watch. And there's a warning on shoplifters, but it's aimed at retailers. So what's the Privacy Commissioner saying about this, Garth?
Yeah. I guess we've all been to the shops, maybe a dairy or wherever, and sort of seen that rogues gallery posted up of photos saying this person's a shoplifter. Some advice from the Privacy Commissioner is that actually those shopkeepers, those retailers are probably breaking the law by that there's a requirement to assure that you've got your facts right about a claim before you make it about a person covered, and that includes putting their data up there. So this is some official advice that's sort of come through, also supported somewhat by Retail New Zealand, who say, hey, we understand shopkeepers are doing it tough, they are frustrated, shrinkage, shoplifting, it's a terrible problem. But just posting those images up could actually be a big problem for businesses, and they're trying to work about how to get some better guidance about how to better use those technologies. Crack down so much on the sharing it on WhatsApp groups among retailers, and look at more sophisticated options like your in-store facial recognition capture that are getting some sort of a tick from the legislators. Sounds like they're firing up here. I better let you go.
Yeah, all good, mate. Hey, Garth Braid from Business Desk. Thanks very much for joining us down there, and we'll go back to Garth later in the show. And we talk business every day thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. Well, Christchurch Hospital is critically overloaded with claims patients are dying in the car park and in the waiting rooms. So there's standing room only in the waiting rooms, and I'm joined now by Claire Sherwood, who is Newstalk ZB's South Island News Director. Now, Claire, you've seen firsthand how overloaded the EDs become. Can you just run us through how bad the situation is?
I have, Michael. I mean, you and us here in the ZB newsroom, we've been covering the overload at our hospitals for some time. And Christchurch Hospital has, for many years, been one that often reaches critical point at this time of year. But this year, definitely, according to the staff, is something else. I've had the unfortunate experience of, as you say, seeing it firsthand. I've been in there 4 separate occasions since the start of this month with various family members. And I have never seen Christchurch Hospital like this, having grown up here and spent a lot of time in there with some sick family members. The situation there is dire. On Sunday, as you said there was waiting room only in the ED wait area. I was a support person, so I stood for 4 hours next to the person I was with. People were really sick in the waiting room. We're talking vomiting profusely, bleeding onto the floor of ED. There are security guards cleaning up that blood. They're struggling to find wheelchairs. There was one man who had spent 5 hours lying on the floor of a Bunnings warehouse here in Christchurch, waiting for an ambulance that simply never came. time. That's just the waiting room. And then you go behind the doors finally to find that same old story of corridors lined with beds and wheelchairs and chairs. But what alarmed me is that the beds that are lined up along the corridor are actually numbered as treatment spaces. So they have labels on them that say Corridor 1, Corridor 2, Corridor 3. They struggled to find a wheelchair that had a hook to put a bag of fluid up. It's tough times. There are doctors wearing backpacks because they don't know where in the hospital they'll be thrown next. For example, a person I was with needed to have a consult, and we were told to go into the resus room and told not to put anything down because if we needed to get out of there, we needed to move fast. So it's really, really tough times there. The doctors, the security, the nurses, they're all doing amazing jobs, but the conditions are tough.
Yeah, I mean, we know from previous reporting, even Middlemore Hospital, a lot of corridor patients being treated last winter. And we know, just to remind our viewers, that, of course, Christchurch ED is the busiest in the country. So what are the doctors saying about the state of play?
As we know with doctors, they're often bound by what they can and can't say, but it gets to a point where they lean on their union agreements and go, look, at this point, it's official that patient safety is at risk. There's one particular senior doctor from Christchurch Hospital ED. His name's Dominic Fleischer, and he's been really vocal and lifted the lid on the situation from a doctor's standpoint. He says they are reaching code red every day. Code red, for those who don't know, is the highest code for overload. He says they have patients dying in the wait room regularly. They have patients leaving, having not seen a doctor for sometimes up to 24 hours waiting, and they leave and have died in the car park. He says they do have plans for things like, code reds. The plan, however, is to set up a tent in the car park, and in that tent, they then, set up a triage centre and operate a smaller medical centre out there. Dominic says, look, we have a tent, we do indeed, but we have no people to man that tent, and therefore no patients can go out there. So he certainly painted the picture of just how dire it is. That's without going into the impact on, obviously, the staff, the hours they're doing, and then watching patients that they ultimately want to help, reaching, terrible health outcomes. So he's lifted the lid and spoken about it. Others have joined the chorus. I know that nurses are all experiencing the same, and that's why we have lots of this strike action that we're seeing. It's not always about pay, they say, but it's about those conditions.
I mean, it sounds pretty desperate and dire. What is Health New Zealand saying about all of this?
Health New Zealand tend to give us the very sort of similar statement that we always get. And I've pushed them, and I've pushed them again today to say, look, we need responses to these actual concerns that have been voiced by a senior doctor. At this point, my direct questions have not been asked, particularly around Dominic's concern about whether Christchurch Hospital would be able to cope with a mass casualty event. He worked through the quakes, he worked through the mosque attack. He says, he knows that we couldn't cope in that situation. Health NZ have not replied to any of that, but they have given the same statement saying that hospitals are there 365 days of the year. They operate 24/7. Patient care is there for those who need it. They appreciate the staff who are working very hard in trying conditions. But as for those specific requests and those specific questions, we hope we will get response today.
Yeah, right. So just finally, so what about the claims of deaths in the car park? Have they responded to that in any way, or kind of just, skip the question altogether?
Skip the question altogether, Michael. So we have the executive director regionally here in Te Waipounamu, who has given a statement that simply says, we're doing our best in trying conditions. There's no particular health concern at the moment in Christchurch. It's winter bugs largely, and then obviously general, accidents and emergencies that come up from time to time. But he has not addressed directly those claims. And as I say, we as a newsroom and many other newsrooms that are concerned about this will continue to ask those questions. But at this point, we're getting the straightforward statement response.
Yeah, we'll do stay on the case. That is Claire Sherwood, Newstalk ZB South Island News Director. Next, why scientists are so excited about video of sharks mating. We're off to Queensland for that story. Then after 8, the jury returned a guilty verdict in the Suitcase murder trial. I'll talk with ZB reporter Emily Ansell, who was in court as the verdict was announced.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GGs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJ's to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Oh, yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough.
You Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to newsroom.co.nz.
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
Speaking to the acting Prime Minister, does he stand by all?
You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university. My message to the union is very clear. Don't use...
The New Zealand Herald. News worth knowing.
You're with Herald Now. I'm Michael Morra. Great to have you with us. In a scientific first, a leopard shark's mating sequence in the wild has been captured on video. Filmed off the coast of New Caledonia, 2 male sharks can be seen engaging with a female, one after the other, before laying on the seafloor as she swims away. It is believed to be the first time the mating behaviour of this endangered species has been documented in their natural habitat. I'm joined now by marine biologist Dr. Hugo Lasource, who captured this incredible video. So Hugo, why is this so significant?
Hey, Mike. This is the first for this species, especially. Sharks have been observed mating in other species, but for the leopard sharks, is the first time. So we were really happy to have these footages.
Yeah, and so was it surprising to see 2 males mating with the female shark?
Yeah, well, let's say we were lucky twice, because the first, just one male and one female is lucky enough for you to be able to witness that. But coming across those 2 males grabbing one female is even more of a surprise for us, and it's not usual, but it happens in sharks.
Yeah, so what can we learn about these mating habitats? Just why exactly is this important?
There are actually a lot that we actually don't know about mating behavior in sharks in general. So this kind of observation can help us find new information on the biology and the anatomy of the sharks, and it will help also develop new conservation measures on how to. You need to understand the sharks better to make sure you can protect it later.
Yeah, I mean, and so where do we find leopard sharks? Because they're obviously not in New Zealand. Are they only sort of limited in their migratory patterns to certain parts of the world?
Yeah, they're more tropical species, so you'll find them in the Indian Ocean, Southeast Asia, and west of the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, and so how rare are they, and what conservation efforts are being undertaken to try and save this species of shark?
So they have been classified as endangered in the red list of IUCN Red.
Music playing over this. Sorry, just carry on with that. With what you were saying there.
Sorry, my bad. I was going. It's an endangered species, and now there's more and more conservation measures trying to get the species coming back. So, for example, we're working with the Reshark project, who are trying to reintroduce the species in region where they've been basically depleted to near extinction. So, for example, in Indonesia, in Raja Ampat, that's where the project started. In New Caledonia, this is a nice field place where you can study them in a natural environment in a population that is in good health and try to inform the rest of the world where they really need it.
And Hugo, can you just articulate for us as a marine biologist why sharks in general are so critically important to the entire ecosystem? Because a lot of people would probably look at this and go, oh, gosh, they're just sharks, who cares? Why are they important?
Yeah. Those are apex predators, so they have a very huge, important role in the food chains. And sharks they play a key role in the ecosystem, basically, where you actually really need them to be there to balance everything. Really, if the sharks were to disappear, then there will be consequences on the rest of the ecosystems, and the environment will not be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, keep up the great work. Dr. Hugo Lasource, marine biologist, thank you very much for joining us on Herald Now this morning. Well, next, what's your plan for retirement? Personal finance with Brad Gordon, thanks to our partners Forsyth Bar. Then after 8, we're back to Garth Bray at the Mood of the Boardroom meeting for the big numbers that will be causing the government concern.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because of good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Still can't get enough.
You Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to newsroom.co.nz.
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
The Beacon City Acting Prime Minister, does he stand by all? You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university. My message to the union is very clear. Don't use...
The New Zealand Herald, news worth knowing.
Welcome back. It's time to talk personal finance thanks to our partners at Forsyth Bar. As we near retirement, the question of how to handle our investments becomes an important one. Should we start to draw down on everything, or is a better strategy required? Here to discuss it is Forsyth Bar Senior Investment Advisor Brad Gordon. Hey, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Mike.
So Brad, do I need to change my investment strategy as I enter retirement?
Well, for so many people, they see the retirement age, maybe whatever that age may be, but increasingly 65, they see it as a hard deadline that they must change everything in order to move into their next stage of life. The reality is 1 in 5 70-year-olds are going to live to 95 plus. That's a very, very long-term investment horizon still. And there is... Therefore, there is actually no need to be changing investment strategy significantly if you're planning for a 7+ year investment strategy. So then we start talking to clients about how you manage your money and your drawings.
So what should that investment strategy look like as you're in retirement, knowing that you are going to live a lot longer than you might previously?
Well, I think the first part of the equation is working out what your lifestyle needs are, and that is different for everyone. Some people live perfectly happily on $100,000 or $200,000 they can get by with New Zealand Super plus $1,000 a month. Others need a lot more. But that comes down to, I guess, the lifestyle you've lived pre-retirement. But it's really looking at saying, well, we know growth assets will perform well over long term. We know that on average they're going to achieve around about a 6 to 10% per annum return. Yes, there's short-term volatility. What is the cost of that volatility versus going into, say, a term deposit, guaranteeing your money will not meet inflation for potentially 25, 30 years?
So how do you think about drawing on your capital?
Well, we look at the amount of capital you got, your lifestyle needs, but we start really with what we call the rule of 4%. At 4%, you know that all else being equal, your money's going to last 25 years. But we know that actually growth assets return about 8%. So you should get 4% plus inflation.
Okay. So what are some of the big mistakes you or your colleagues have seen as people go into that retirement phase in terms of investments?
Moving their assets to being too conservative, moving to term deposits. Moving to term deposits guarantees your money will not beat inflation. The only way your money over a long-term time horizon is going to beat inflation is maintaining some growth assets. Now, for peace of mind, you want to have a balance, but for most part, you want to maintain a long-term investment strategy.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much for your insights. It's always very welcome. That is Brad Gordon, Forsyth Barr, Senior Investment Advisor, and we talk personal finance every week thanks to our partners, Forsyth Barr. Well, it is 8 o'clock and you're watching Herald Now. Good morning and welcome to Herald Now. I'm Michael Morra. It's Wednesday the 24th of September. On the show today, more bad news for the government. The Herald's Mood of the Boardroom survey doesn't rank Chris Luxon or Nicola Willis in the top 10 ministers. Garth Bray with that and more from the Boardroom next. The Suitcase double murder trial made headlines around the world. Yesterday, the jury returned a guilty verdict. ZB reporter Emily Ansell was in court and she joins me in 10 minutes. Plus a big boost for our tennis tournament. Former world number one Naomi Osaka has announced she's coming back to Auckland this summer. Tournament director Nico Lamperin joins me after 8:30. It is 1 minute past 8, a bit late to the news. Here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Energy issues are weighing on the minds of business leaders. The Herald's annual Mood of the Boardroom survey shows they're less optimistic about the economy than they were a year ago. Rising energy prices are the biggest domestic concern, ahead of issues like inflation, infrastructure, government policy and cyber threats. General geopolitical volatility is the biggest international worry, ahead of the specific factors like US-China tariffs and US tariffs. Concerns changes around leave entitlements could see workers encouraged to take cash instead of holidays. The replacement of the Holidays Act will see a raft of changes, including flexibility of being able to take only the hours needed off work rather than a full day. There will also be more flexibility for workers to cash up leave if they have a large balance. Workers' First Union General Secretary Dennis Marga says many businesses could exploit workers to take the money over annual leave, especially with these tough economic conditions. He says they want workers to take leave and rest. Donald Trump has used his UN address to say recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas. Britain and France have formally recognised the state, joining the likes of Australia and Canada. Trump has lashed out at many nations during his speech at the UN General Assembly, touching on climate change, immigration and global conflicts. He says the act of UN members to recognise Palestine encourages continued conflict in the Middle East.
Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Foreign Minister Winston Peters is also in New York and will tell the UN on Saturday morning what our approach to a Palestine state is. The government's being urged to let the Reserve Bank do its job without interference. It's set to announce the new governor of the central bank this afternoon. Oliver Hartwich, the executive director of the New Zealand Initiative business think tank, says the Reserve Bank needs to maintain its independence and remain focused on addressing inflation. He says government politicians also need to let the central bank do their job. Job seekers are continuing to feel the impact of the weaker economy and labour market when it comes to the salaries they're being offered. Latest data from job website Seek shows advertised salaries have risen just 2% in the past year. That's well below the rate of inflation and is a stark contrast to the 5.1% rise in salaries recorded in the same period 2 years earlier. Seek New Zealand manager Rob Clark says it's a reflection of lower demand for labour.
As we have seen for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's just been a slow decline in the growth rate of average salaries, which have increased, but just at a slowing rate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Naomi Osaka will return to the ASB Tennis Classic next year, and what she hopes is another crack at bungee jumping off Auckland Sky Tower. Her tournament debut in January ended when she retired injured from the final while up a set. England will come to Australia with a 6-pronged battery of pace bowlers in a 16-strong squad as they attempt to regain cricket's ashes. Harold Dickie Bird, one of cricket's most famous umpires, has died aged 92. He stood in 66 tests and featured in 3 World Cup finals.
Well, Dame Jacinda Ardern appeared on The Daily Show last night to talk about leadership, her documentary and her new children's book. She also came armed with a block of Whittaker's chocolate for the host, Jon Stewart.
So I walked in, and she has a full display of Whittaker's Hokey Pokey
I couldn't
Crunch.
put the whole block. It would have melted in my trousers, but I did bring...
And it was, I have to say, delicious, but I didn't know if I was supposed to say, like, wow, New Zealand, nice.
Could you just say that directly down?
Wow, New Zealand, great chocolate. Is there any chance you re-enter a political arena at some point, or is that a part of your life that you'd like to move past that?
I'm very happy as just solely an ambassador for New Zealand's chocolate.
It's very good, the chocolate.
Nice. Well, that was Jacinda Ardern on The Daily Show. Now it's time for the weather with John.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, a cloudier but mild start across the top of the country. Plenty of wet weather as well, running through Northland, Auckland, the Bay of Plenty through the day today. Clearer skies as we head down towards Canterbury and Otago to kick things off, but another front will bring some wetter weather in towards the south as we head through the daytime. But some of the wettest weather is up in the north as that band of rainfall runs across the top of the North Island. Some heavy bursts and the risk of even some thunderstorms through parts of Northland and Auckland. We've got a collection of severe weather watches up north through the daytime today and for the Bay of Plenty even through into Thursday. Down south though, we start off generally dry and clear. More cloud pushing towards Fiordland, some showers in towards Stewart Island as well, but generally a dry day for places like Dunedin and Queenstown. Early cloud through Canterbury should break up and clear off to leave some fine spells of sunshine and highs in Christchurch of around about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 up in Blenheim. More cloud for the North Island, but generally dry through Wellington. There will be some showers though remaining for Taranaki and Manawatu, but the wetter weather is up here in the north with some particularly heavy rainfall running through in towards the Bay of Plenty throughout the day today, but also through in towards Thursday. We've got that watch in place for you. And it's a cloudy, wet day across Auckland, Northland and the Waikato region, with that rainfall turning to showers, but still with some fairly heavy and perhaps thundery bursts even into this afternoon.
Well, after just 3.5 hours of deliberations, child-killing mum Ha-Gyung Lee has been convicted a double murderer. She's been found guilty of murdering her 2 children and hiding them in suitcases. Emily Ansell, News Talk ZB reporter, has been in court covering this story. And Emily, What convinced the jury, do you think, to deliver this verdict?
Yeah, well, it was probably what didn't convince them, which in a nutshell was that she was not insane when she killed her children. She had argued she was driven to madness following her husband's death from cancer about 7 months before. Her defence said her mind was fractured. One psychiatrist found her to have a disease of the mind at the time. However, another did not. And the other thing was the only proof of her claims that she heard voices telling her to kill her children, or that she'd attempted suicide in the lead-up, was from her.
Okay, and I mean, I saw some mention of the purchase of a lotto ticket and also a Minecraft trophy. So were those important, do you think, in the jury's mind when they were going through their decision-making process to kind of go, well, actually, look, she was doing some quite normal things and probably wasn't insane?
Well, yeah, I guess those definitely would have played a role. So the data on the children's PlayStation indicated it was last active on the 27th of June, which is the day that the Crown argue her children could have been killed. So the Crown also say that this would have been the children on the PlayStation, and if that was the case, it means Lee was taking steps to change her name, which happened before she left for Korea without her kids. And it also meant she was buying materials which could have been used to wrap the bodies up before they died as well. So the defence argue these assumptions were a result of gap filling, but their only witness, another psychiatrist, ended up retracting her findings. Lee didn't realise she was morally wrong when she killed her kids because of this timeline. And that lotto ticket also, which she bought before she left for Korea, wouldn't have looked that great either.
No. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So you were in court as this verdict was delivered. What was the reaction like?
I guess the reaction was pretty in line with Lee's demeanour that she had shown throughout this entire trial, and that it was very restrained. We've only ever seen her with her head bowed and her hair sort of falling over one side of her face. The only difference was that she appeared in the courtroom rather than video link, but as I say, she was pretty refrained. She stood, her head was bowed, her hair was across her face. You couldn't see many expressions or any at all really, and then she was taken out pretty swiftly once it was confirmed the jury had found her guilty.
Yeah, I mean, this was a major manhunt overseas as well to bring her back to face justice in New Zealand. So what sort of sentence is she facing, do you think?
Yeah, so Justice Jeffrey Venning has set her sentence date for November 26th. If she had been found guilty on the basis of insanity, it would have meant an extended stay at a psychiatric facility essentially, but as insanity has been ruled out, it's expected she could likely be facing a life sentence.
Wow, okay. Well, Emily Ansell, thanks so much for your analysis this morning on Herald Now. I really appreciate that. Emily Ansell, News Talk ZB. We're just going to go to a quick break. Back soon.
You Do It DIY can make your new dream kitchen a reality. As a trusted Kiwi manufacturer for 44 years, You Do It has made it easy to design, order and assemble your own dream kitchen, offering a range of colour options and flexible sizing. With excellent online support, our customers all agree that You Do It makes DIY easy, delivering superb quality at a great price. Get your project started today at nzherald.co.nz.
We have completed 4 builds with GJ. Every time we want to think of building, we always go back to GJ.
It's a really good experience throughout the whole process.
They deliver what they promise on, and it feels like working with a family member. It's very easy and trustworthy to work with GJ.
I'm Hayden Scott, and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life, I was a chef. Did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
I'm Michael Morrow, you're with Herald Now. US President Donald Trump used his speech at the United Nations this morning to tell other countries their immigration and climate policies were wrong. And he had a go at the UN for failing to achieve world peace.
And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal.
And in a major U-turn, Trump now says NATO forces should shoot down any Russian aircraft that enter its airspace, and that Ukraine can both win the war and reclaim territory lost since the Russian invasion. Well, in a post on Truth Social, Trump seems to concede he now better understands the situation, stating, "I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form." He also backed NATO to do whatever it wants with weapons the US supplies. Well, the latest New Zealand Herald Mood of the Boardroom survey is out, capturing what CEOs and senior executives from across the country think about the government, policy and leadership. NZME Business Editorial Director Fran O'Sullivan is delivering the results to business leaders this morning, including the rankings of cabinet ministers. Let's take a look.
So cabinet ministers, this is something we do each year. Erica has become top of class again. I think she might be here in the room today. Amazing, a number of people find you very impressive, and we haven't seen such levels in the survey, but you're not alone. That kicks down to some of your colleagues as well. Winston Peters this is amazing. You know, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have been seen in the same room with him, I tell you. He used to be called the nodfather, and things were, you know, the comments were quite unprintable, frankly, in the survey, because unless you wanted to be tied up in a 10-year defamation suit. So, you know, but it's interesting. He's at 80, he's reached this new height, and people do rate him well. Looking through, Chris Penk, interesting, not in cabinet, but rated well. So again there, comments on the Prime Minister's appointments of particular people paying dividends, and this rather acerbic quote about Winston, impressing as Foreign Affairs Minister, but maybe not for greyhound owners, yeah, which I really loved. Anyway, excellent examples of leadership, but it now, you know, some sense of playing politics with issues, which is starting to creep in now, as we've seen over the last week or so, with, you know, policy divergement and agree to disagree starting to be put in place by the said for Minister. Okay, but, you know, some of the policies, fast-track consent, a game changer for some of the companies, and again, we're seeing one of the companies in this room starting to move again, getting infrastructure built after waiting a long time. But here, again, a different comment relating really to Pernod Ricard, you know, which is from I was going to say the wine sector. Again, you know, they're facing difficulties. So there's a lot of things that are impacting, some good, some bad. So cabinet ministers outside of the top 5. Sorry, Minister, you're not rating up there this year. Neither is the Prime Minister. And this is something that we'll come back to shortly. So Christopher, we called it the Christopher conundrum because it's a 2-tier situation. I mean, he does play well internationally. You know, he really does work exceptionally hard, as people know. He's done well to keep cabinet colleagues focused on delivery, but building confidence with business, his own political performance, and delivering on transformative change, less impressive, and that is where some work needs to occur.
Well, that was Fran O'Sullivan, and we'll have more from the mood of the boardroom live with Garth Bray from Business Desk after the break.
A lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning.
Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, who's got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
Oh, I also wanted to get something for my new kitchen while I was here.
Yeah, we've got plenty of great appliances for your kitchen.
And R&B. Flavor.
Maximising productivity, what have you got?
Well, if we switch to 2 degrees, with Flex for Business, we can instantly manage data usage, employee mobile plans, and cost centre reporting, saving us time and money. Cool. I'll get onto that then.
Welcome back to Herald Now. I'm Michael Morris. Staying with the mood of the boardroom this morning, Garth Bray is in attendance and joins us now again. Nicola Willis, Garth, what is she telling the room?
Well, Michael, I'm just keeping my voice a little bit low at the moment. I hope you're picking me up there because Barbara Edmonds is still just on stage. She followed after Nicola Willis and she's just wrapping up her presentation there. She rated as the top-ranked Labour Cabinet Minister in the pick from the Mood of the Boardroom study with 3.2 out of 5, well ahead of Chris Hipkins on 2.28. And Kieran McAnulty, who was the second-ranked Cabinet Minister. You can just hear a bit of round of applause there for her presentation to the Mood of the Boardroom, which really dealt, I think, about how this is more important than just a simple economic question. She touched on how there is a deeper, more damaging disconnect going on in the economy at the moment, and that perhaps people are losing a bit of a hope about having a better future. And I guess she touched on some of the sort of issues that we've seen overseas as well, that people are drifting away when they lose that hope of an economic future. They're going online and they're connecting with all kinds of slightly more radical fringe theories, and we're losing a sense of cohesion as a country. So really saying that the purpose that she brings to the job, if she gets the chance, is to take it beyond the boardroom and beyond the bottom line to basically trying to hold things together and keep us all on the same track. I suspect that will have touched a nerve with a few people here, and given the amount of interest that execs spend in boardrooms around the country, looking at geopolitics, looking at the wider picture, and looking at how political stability is so important to be able to do business, that might not have gone too badly. You could probably hear Nicola Willis, the Finance Minister, speaking before me. They're both on stage at the moment taking questions from the audience. Nicola Willis there in a blue power suit was basically accepting the findings of this survey, saying she diligently reads her reports. I guess she's talking about school reports there, and that she acknowledges she's had better ones, which got a laugh. A sense there that really, she's accepting basically that businesses and boardroom leaders are saying, look, you haven't quite done enough with the growth agenda. Well, that's a mixed message. Others are saying, hey, look, it's on businesses to pick up and do the heavy lifting now and run with it. I mean, she sort of ticked off a few important infrastructure initiatives and trying to lay in how they now have a 20-year plan for health and 10-year plan for health, 20-year plan for education, buildings and so on, and how these are important signifiers that they do have the right ideas. She said she wasn't going to over-egg those Q2 gloomy GDP results, and she felt that growth is ahead. She got a round of applause too, polite. but I guess it's now all in what they make of it from here.
Yeah, and so Garth, I mean, we know that Nicola Willis ranked 13th, and so is she sort of just taking this on the chin, because it's not a particularly good ranking? Christopher Luxon even further behind. What's her message? Is she kind of accepting that the performance of her and the PM maybe haven't been that good, according to business leaders?
Yeah, I think probably the message really is stick with us, and you get a sense from this, a consistent message coming through this mood of the Boardroom survey. There's a touch of fear there, and the fear comes, I guess, and it's expressed as political uncertainty, and what that is code for is business and boardroom leaders saying, hey, National, and Coalition, you've managed to place some policies in place that we'd like, but we don't know if you're going to be around next year after the election. You have to pull your socks up. Otherwise, we could see some rapid reversals on that, and that could be bad. So there's a sense of that coming through. In terms of Christopher Luxon himself, I mean, I think that the slide up here was the Christopher conundrum, a leader who seems to have done pretty well overseas, pretty well on trade missions. He's active and energetic in those offshore spaces. But back home, not quite seeing the same thing. You know, he's managing to kind of keep a caucus together, keep a cabinet together, but some of his political messaging's a bit off. I guess there've been some flip-flops and reversals. You know, on the one hand, they're not going to back the America's Cut. Oh, but wait, there's money for a raft of smaller initiatives and so on. One business leader was saying, look, he went in there with one of the best sort of Rolodexes, one of the best contact lists that you would hope to have as a leader going into the PM's office, and he hasn't been calling people. He hasn't been maintaining that one-to-one connection around his officials to try and get a sense of what's really going on out there. So I guess the message from business is, hey, Christopher, call me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Garth Bray, thanks so much for your analysis. Garth Bray from Business Desk, live from the Mood of the Boardroom event, which is ongoing here at NZME. And of course, you can read more about the findings at nzherald.co.nz. It's time for our panel. Thank you very much for joining us. Tim Wilson, Maxim Institute Executive Director, and Maria Slade from Business Desk, Senior Reporter. Well, first of all, Maria, this is a pretty huge day, right? The significance of this report is significant. And what do you make of these rankings, which are pretty fascinating? Luxon at 13th.
It is a bit surprising that the Prime Minister comes so low in the rankings, and yet it's not, because we know that he's not a Prime Minister that's really kind of hummed, if you like. You know, he hasn't got the charisma of a John Key for a start, and I think that's never sort of helped him. But I think also there's just huge frustration at the state of the economy. We just can't seem to, you know, get a break, really. Look at those GDP numbers that came out the other day, even though people are saying, you know, probably it's a matter of statistics and things will come right this quarter. But, you know, people never look favourably at a government when the economy's in the doldrums. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Tim, what's your assessment on this? I see that Erica Stanford right up there, and Winston.
Look, I'd pull it back. I mean, historically, I think Christopher Luxon came in as more of a manager-style leader as opposed to the visionary leadership of Dame Jacinda Ardern. So he was an antidote. So this is his way of doing it. There's clearly a desire for greater vision now, and I think in the case of Erica Stanford, what's it all been about with her? NCEA. Okay, I'm going to fix NCEA. So it's like pick a focus, get in there. But I will say that generally the cabinet seems to be rated pretty well. So if your colleagues and the people you lead are doing well, then by reflection, you're doing well. However, it just doesn't look that good.
Yeah, and I mean, just on Luxon's rankings, Maria, I mean, do you think he's got time to sort of pull it back? I mean, he said to me on this program the other day, he's expecting this kind of uplift by Christmas. I mean, that's what he's hanging out for, isn't he? Some good news, some good economic news.
Waiting for an upward draft or something, is he? Look, I think my colleague Dileepa Fonseca makes quite a good point in Business Desk this morning when he says that probably one of the things they fear the most is a change of government next year, that the country is so sort of, annoyed with the state of the current government, the performance of the current government. They'll vote them out after only one term, and then we're in the situation again where we get a new government in, just starts unravelling everything like this one has done. And that change, that constant churn and change, is possibly what they fear the most, rather than being really annoyed with a national government. Because, you know, as we know, business favours a centre-right government, and so it's not that they disagree with their general direction of travel as such, it's just that they haven't managed to sort of get much done in 3 years yet.
Okay, look, we're going to come back shortly because we've just had a bit of a microphone malfunction. Should see you after the break shortly.
A lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning.
Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, you got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
Oh, I also wanted to get something for my new kitchen while I was here.
Yeah, we've got plenty of great appliances for your kitchen.
And R&B. Flavor.
Maximising productivity, what have you got?
Well, if we switch to 2 degrees, with Flex for Business, we can instantly manage data usage, employee mobile plans, and cost centre reporting, saving us time and money. Cool. I'll get onto that then.
Okay, we fixed the dodgy microphone and we're back with our panel this morning. Tim Wilson, Maxim Institute Executive Director, and Maria Slade here from Business Desk. Thanks for being here again, guys. So, Tim, Trump, let's just pick up on this, the paracetamol and autism claims. What did you think when you read or heard him talk about this?
Yeah, look, the wider context of this is that Trump's a populist politician, and a lot of people are more than sceptical about Big Pharma. Okay, and he campaigned with RFK to take on Big Pharma, maybe not take it out. And this is not unexpected, that's what I thought. And he was very much, you know, Bobby wants to be careful, I don't want to be careful. And this is the sort of Trump special sauce, which is a kind of authenticity of some kind. And in a world where so much communications are stage managed and people think, oh, I'm not being told the truth or what people really think, I think this does generate some cut through for him.
Yeah, so do you think this was all part of a political strategy, Maria?
Oh, it's all very carefully stage managed, absolutely. The way he just ignores the entire body of modern medical science and go, oh, well, it's just my opinion, you know, but just putting it out there kind of thing. It's so dangerous that you might suggest that paracetamol causes autism, and things like, oh, well, they don't have it in Cuba. Yeah, but Cuba's pretty much a third world country where autism is probably very much underdiagnosed anyway.
Because the diagnosis, the ability to diagnose it would be very mixed in a place like Cuba.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, as I recall, is a communist state. I don't know if America wants to be like Cuba.
Well, that's right. And it's just so worrying that America's going further and further and further down these kinds of rabbit holes, and things like the Jimmy Kimmel situation we've seen in the last week or so. Apparently he's being reinstated, but the idea that the state can say to a media outlet, right, we're going to rip away your broadcasting licence if you don't tie-ho, it's beyond our sort of framework, really, in New Zealand, and it's so hard to understand that the Americans go for this kind of a leader.
Well, that's one of the key points, isn't it, right? I mean, you've got Trump, but he's saying stuff like this, baseless comments, dangerous comments, but it's clear that people like what he's saying. It's popular, and so he doesn't care about trashing science or peer-reviewed reports.
Well, the way they have politicised the death of Charlie Kirk, the death of that commentator has just so played into the Republican political playbook. It was a gift to them, really, and they have made the most of a really awful situation.
And that's actually one of the unappealing things about this, because this is actually personally a huge tragedy, the death of a 31-year-old father of 2 kids, and someone who I would say sort of attempted, on most cases, to disagree agreeably with people and to actually front up with them. And it's to see the political power play. It is a bit unseemly, but that's American politics.
I thought it was pretty gross. I mean, you had Trump even at that memorial service. Basically hinting at his announcement, his political announcement the next day about autism. I mean, it just felt wrong.
Yeah, it's very distasteful to the New Zealand way of doing things, that's for sure.
Okay, Christchurch Hospital's ED. We know that every winter things get really bad, but it appears to be at crisis point at our busiest ED. Is New Zealand plunging into third world healthcare?
You'd like to know more about what the reasons are behind that, whether it's a case of lack of staff, whether it's a case of people fronting up to ED when they possibly should be going to their GP first, which is often a problem, whether Christchurch is particularly short on resources compared to other EDs around the country. We know that Middlemore always struggles. It does seem like it is a crisis that needs more resources put into it, because it just seems getting worse every winter. And it's hard to know why it's not being addressed. What's needed? Why are we continuing to spiral into this problem every winter?
Well, space and not enough staff. Where do you stand on this? I mean, consecutive governments appear to have failed to address this issue over a long time.
Yeah, and this is a multivalent structural issue in terms of health, and a heartbreaking situation for the staff that work in there, the doctors, the nurses. Hats go off to them. In the sense that you're referring to GPs, many people. The numbers of GPs are going down. Many of them are over 60, they're retiring. Many GPs, they closed their books between 2018 and 22 because they're at capacity. Will more money fix this? Well, actually since 2019, we spent 25% more on health, but we've also had 400,000 people come in through immigration. So there's a lot of buttons that we've got to push here to get this right, but we need to do it.
Okay, guys, we've got to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning on Herald Now. Tim Wilson, Maxima Institute Executive Director, and Maria Slade, Business Desk Senior Journalist. Well, it is 8:35. Here's Neva with the news.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
Energy issues are weighing on the minds of business leaders. The Herald's annual Mood of the Boardroom survey shows they're less optimistic about the economy than they were a year ago. Rising energy prices are the biggest domestic concern, ahead of issues like inflation, infrastructure, government policy and cyber threats. General geopolitical volatility is the biggest international worry, ahead of the specific factors like US-China tariffs and US tariffs. Concerns changes around leave entitlements could see workers encouraged to take cash instead of holidays. The replacement of the Holidays Act will see a raft of changes, including flexibility of being able to take only the hours needed off work rather than a full day. There will also be more flexibility for workers to cash up leave if they have a large balance. Workers' First Union General Secretary Dennis Marga says many businesses could exploit workers to take the money over annual leave, especially with these tough economic conditions. He says they want workers to take leave and rest. Donald Trump has used his UN address to say recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas. Britain and France have formally recognised the state, joining the likes of Australia and Canada. Trump has lashed out at many nations during his speech at the UN General Assembly, touching on climate change, immigration and global conflicts. He says the act of UN members to recognise Palestine encourages continued conflict in the Middle East.
Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Foreign Minister Winston Peters is also in New York and will tell the UN on Saturday morning what our approach to a Palestine state is. The government's being urged to let the Reserve Bank do its job without interference. It's set to announce the new governor of the central bank this afternoon. Oliver Hartwich, the executive director of the New Zealand Initiative business think tank, says the Reserve Bank needs to maintain its independence and remain focused on addressing inflation. He says government politicians also need to let the central bank do their job. Job seekers are continuing to feel the impact of the weaker economy and labour market when it comes to the salaries they're being offered. Latest data from job website Seek shows advertised salaries have risen just 2% in the past year. That's well below the rate of inflation and is a stark contrast to the 5.1% rise in salaries recorded in the same period 2 years earlier. Seek New Zealand manager Rob Clark says it's a reflection of lower demand for labour.
As we have seen for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's just been a slow decline in the growth rate of average salaries, which have increased, but just at a slowing rate.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, a cloudier but mild start across the top of the country. Plenty of wet weather as well, running through North and Auckland, the Bay of Plenty through the day today. Clearer skies as we head down towards Canterbury and Otago to kick things off, but another front will bring some wetter weather in towards the south as we head through the daytime. But some of the wettest weather is up in the north as that band of rainfall runs across the top of the North Island. Some heavy bursts and the risk of even some thunderstorms through parts of Northland and Auckland. We've got a collection of severe weather watches up north through the daytime today and for the Bay of Plenty even through into Thursday. Down south though, we start off generally dry and clear. More cloud pushing towards Fiordland, some showers in towards Stewart Island as well, but generally a dry day for places like Dunedin and Queenstown. Early cloud through Canterbury should break up and clear off to leave some fine spells of sunshine and highs in Christchurch of around about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 up in Blenheim. More cloud for the North Island, but generally dry through Wellington. There will be some showers, though, remaining for Taranaki and Manawatu. But the wetter weather is up here in the north, with some particularly heavy rainfall running through and towards the Bay of Plenty throughout the day today, but also through and towards Thursday. We've got that watch in place for you. And it's a cloudy, wet day across Auckland, Northland and the Waikato region, with that rainfall turning to showers, but still with some fairly heavy and perhaps thundery bursts even into this afternoon.
You're watching Herald Now. I'm Michael Morrow. Great to have you with us this morning. Former tennis world number one Naomi Osaka has announced that she's returning to Auckland this summer to play in the ASB Classic.
Having a strong start in Auckland would be really important for building the year and heading into the Australian Open. I think last year I did pretty well. Of course, I had to retire in the finals, but I think it definitely gave me a lot of confidence going into Melbourne. The biggest lessons and highlights I'll carry into the next year, obviously coming off of a really strong US swing and doing well in the US Open, but I think the whole year has been filled with really great lessons. Playing with Malpise was definitely, I guess, a dream come true for me. I watched him a lot when I was a kid, and I think, he's one of the most entertaining tennis players. I really love knowing that I'm competing against the best players in the world.
It's former world number one Naomi Osaka, and joining me now is ASB Classic Tournament Director Nico Lamprin. So how big a deal is it to have Naomi confirmed as coming back?
It's a great deal for us. Naomi is probably one of the two biggest stars in tennis at the moment, outside of Coco Gauff. So for us to be able to bring her back to Auckland one more year, it's a bit of an achievement.
Yeah, so how did you achieve that?
It's all a matter of timing, I would say. We had some early discussions after the good run that she had in Auckland this year, and she was really keen to come back. Obviously, things changed a little bit after the great run that she had in the US Open last August. But I think altogether we put a strong proposal to her, and that was enough to get it across the line.
So you've been on the phone or bashing out emails in the middle of the night?
I've been in contact with the team for the last 6 months.
Yeah, right.
We wanted to make sure that she understands she was our number one priority and she was key for us.
Oh, well, fantastic. It's really good news. I mean, she's had some time off to have a baby. Well, how's she been on the court?
It was a long process to get back after the pregnancy. She first came to Auckland this year. She was outside of the top 50, and she was kind of struggling to find a rhythm and a form again. And then she changed coaches at the end of July, and then since then she's been on a roll. She played the final in Montreal, and she was in the semis of the US Open, and she's clearly back to a top level right now.
There's lots of tennis tournaments around the world. What is it about the ASB Classic you think that makes these top players want to come down here?
I think the ASB Classic is a very unique tournament, a very special atmosphere. The fans are really close to the action, but also it's all the attention that we bring to the players. We very much look after it. We want to make sure they have the best conditions on court, but also outside, and that they can make the most of it while they are in New Zealand.
Have you got any more big names coming or announcements in the pipeline, Nico?
Yeah, so we've mostly focused on the women's draw for now. Soon we'll start announcing some of the men's. I can tell you today that there will be a top 10 player and probably one or two top 20 male player to be announced in the next few weeks.
Okay. Nico Lamprun, thank you so much for joining us on Herald Now this morning. Thanks very much for your time. We're going to go to a short break and we will be back soon with Jenny Mortimer with the latest entertainment news.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Oh, yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough.
You Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to newsroom.co.nz. Ready?
Love changes everything. Love changes everything. One Roof Property. Love where you live.
Vacant City Acting Prime Minister, does he stand by all of
You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university.
My message to the union is very clear. Don't use...
The New Zealand Herald, news worth knowing.
Jimmy Kimmel's late-night talk show, which was pulled from air last week over comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination, will be back tonight. Jenny Mortimer, Chief Entertainment Reporter, has the story. So, Jenny, what's Disney been saying?
Yes, so Disney has basically said it will be back, but they have had some conversations with Kimmel. They've seen them to be productive. It sounds like potentially he's had a slap on the wrist, and they have come out saying, we do believe what he said was insensitive in time of turmoil in the United States. But not everyone's happy about it. Some of the smaller networks are refusing to air it, regardless of Disney saying it's coming back. So as expected, America is very divided on this one still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of talk shows, Jacinda Ardern spoke to The Daily Show about her new documentary. Here's what she had to say.
It's remarkable because it's very unfiltered in a way that you don't often see with politicians. You were not, as might be micromanaged here from certain personalities, in the edit room going, don't put that in. No, I don't want to snap. You know,
and I think that's obvious.
It's raw.
It's obvious by the footage. You know, you're like, why would she have allowed that clip at that angle?
More importantly, why would she have allowed her husband to film it?
Yeah, so Jenny, what's the reaction been to that documentary?
It's been really interesting. We were talking about it in the team. New Zealand doesn't seem to have had much reaction. If anything, there's a bit of a political backlash in terms of people are going, it's very one-sided. It doesn't show really what happened to New Zealand. But then the filmmakers have come out saying that's not what it was about. It was about empathy and kindness. But in the States, the feedback has been really, really positive. She's doing this talk show circuit, and she's only doing it with people that she really knows will say, bravo, well done. But she has released so much so quickly. We've had her book, we've had her doco, and her children's book came out yesterday. So I think New Zealanders just don't quite know where they're supposed to follow this.
She's ripping, isn't she? I mean, how's her book doing in terms of sales? And that sort of thing?
Well, her kids' book came out yesterday, and I'm not sure on that one, but apparently her autobiography did quite well. So I guess we'll see. Maybe she's hoping she can just get it all over and done with very quickly, and then go back into hiding for a little bit. So
I know, she's certainly been busy doing lots of rounds on the talk shows. And Tom Holland, has been injured on the set of Spider-Man.
Yes, so he was filming the latest Spider-Man, and he's had what they're calling a collision, and he's had a head injury during one of the stunts. So he's been in hospital, but he has been released. They said basically he was admitted with an abundance of caution, and he should return next week. So good news for Spider-Man fans, he will be back.
Okay, well, Jenny Mortimer, Chief Entertainment Reporter, thank you very much for coming on the set this morning at Herald Now and for your insights. Well, One Roof is giving away 3 brand new cars, and we at Herald Now are helping them do it. There's one left, still to be given away next week. Go to nzherald.co.nz/win to be in the draw for a 2025 Suzuki Fronx. And while you're there, suss out some properties with off-street parking for your new Suzuki Fronx. And we'll be watching the final Suzuki live on. We'll be announcing the winner of the final Suzuki live on the show early next week. Right, time to find out what's on the front page this morning, and I'm joined by Chelsea Daniels, your host, and you're looking at the broken health system today.
Yeah, it's something that you know a lot about, hey Mike. So I spoke to Association of Salaried Medical Specialists Executive Director Sarah Dalton, basically just chatting about why they're obviously on strike until midnight tonight. They went on strike yesterday. This is the senior doctors and dentists. Basically about, what is a senior doctor? For starters, I mean, we see all these people on strike all the time. What do they want? What are they saying? Why are they on strike? Who's affected? So we really dove into the situation in the health system at the moment. We spoke about Health New Zealand actually spends upwards of $200 million annually on locums rather than pumping that back into salaried medical specialists. And she said, why would you prioritise letting locum rates go up and up and up for temporary labour, who of course they do a good job, and why wouldn't you go and do locum work if you're going to get paid more? But they don't do the whole job. They're not there for the long haul. The Health New Zealand keeps saying, well, no, we're not going to pay you a retention allowance for working in Gisborne or Invercargill or something. So she said, well, there are definite ways that we can fix it now, but of course the health system, there's no quick fix, there's no silver bullet. She said, so far negotiations have been empty, and the only time an offer has been brought to the table is when they've called for strike action. She said it's like kindergarten level stuff at the moment. Right. And she said, look, some of the conversations that they're having behind the scenes as well, we can't give you this or else the nurses will want it. We can't give you this allowance because then, another group will get upset and they'll want it as well. It's like, pay everyone better and give them better allowances.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think, we had the Prime Minister on, we've had Simeon Brown, and we've had the Health New Zealand all kind of chiming in and saying, well, look, what the doctors are doing is not fair. It's putting procedures and appointments at risk. But then again, I mean, you've got to say, and I'm sure Sarah Dalton would agree, that senior doctors don't just do this on a whim. They don't walk out of their office and flag their duties.
No, exactly.
For 48
that's actually
hours, this is a problem, right?
Funny you say that, because I've got a clip for you. Sarah said that they genuinely don't like doing this. Take a look.
It's really hard for them to take strike action because they are trained to put patients first. They are trained not to walk away from people who need care. But it has reached the point now that the health system is actually on a daily basis preventing them from giving people the care they need. I guess the term that academics use for this is moral injury, the injury that you suffer when you're actually prevented from doing the work that you're trained to do in the way. And so our members spend a lot of time trying to do the least worst thing for patients rather than the best thing.
And I guess, Chelsea, just picking up on what Sarah was saying there, when you have not enough staff, too many patients, the real issue is patient safety. And we're already seeing that emerging at Christchurch's ED. We know that people are treated regularly in corridors at Middlemore's ED. Is that the core issue here? Safety of patients.
Yeah, I mean, and you heard it from Sarah as well. They're choosing not the best route of care. They're choosing what's best for right now, basically. And is that a health system that we want and that we're investing in as Kiwis as well? Our tax dollars are going towards this. And I said to Sarah, look, stop anyone on the street and ask them, what would you prefer your tax dollars go to? Probably health and education, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the public are behind the doctors and nurses, to be quite frank. Hey, Chelsea Daniels, great episode. Looking forward to it. Chelsea Daniels, the Front Page podcast host. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Right, well, next, Katie Oliver with the stories that are developing on the Herald website today. And we'll go back to Garth Bray to wrap up the mood of the boardroom.
I also wanted to get something for my new kitchen while I was here.
Yeah, we've got plenty of great appliances for your kitchen.
Here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost centre reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
You can have what she's having.
Sing your heart out to Coast's feel-good 80s hits. Kenny Loggins. Whitney. John Farnham. Eurythmics. Bonnie Tyler. Eric Carmen. The most 80s are on Coast. Sing your heart out. Coast.
In 1985, my grandfather set out to make the world a better tea. That's why we grow our own, unlike other tea companies, then pick the best leaves by hand, not machine, and pack it right here in Sri Lanka. But it's not just the taste that makes our tea better. 15% of our profit goes to humanity and to the elephants. As my grandfather said,
do try it.
Welcome back to Herald Now. It's time to talk business. Thanks to our partners at 2 Degrees. The latest New Zealand Herald Mood of the Boardroom survey is out and Garth Bray is there for us and he's tracked down the boss of Freightways. Garth.
Yeah, g'day, Michael. You can probably just hear in the background, we're hearing a vote of thanks there as well from Catherine McGrath, the Chief Executive of Westpac. Mark's joined me here because he's one of the 150 leaders who submitted their views on, I guess, the state of our own economy and how the politicians are handling that. Mark, what are you seeing out there that you like at the moment?
Look, I think in terms of the economy, that's slowly starting to turn from what we can see. The analogy we would use is it feels like we've been biking into a headwind for 2.5 years now, and now that wind's dropped off. And it's quite nice having neutral rather than going into a headwind. I think we're waiting for the tailwind to come, but I don't think we're going to end back in a headwind again anytime soon. So I think it's turned. I think it'll be a long, slow grind out of it, though.
Does that mean that you, as a business, are starting to make more positive investment decisions, seeing that there's that road ahead?
Look, I don't think we stopped through that period, to be fair. So I think we've always tried to play our own game. Our team are very good at controlling the things we can control regardless of the economy. So we haven't really stopped through that period, to be fair.
You're trying to make your own weather. I guess if we're looking at some of the results today, pretty harsh marking for the PM, for the Finance Minister. You were probably somewhere in those marks. You don't have to tell us how you scored them, but do you see the Christopher conundrum that others do? A man who sort of seems to be, promising overseas but not quite delivering at home?
Look, I think it's an incredibly hard job. You're coming back from 6 years of mounting debt, a lot of government spending, really high inflation, which hurt our business amongst many others. I think the reality is crawling back and turning the ship around from 6 years of that is tough. And we all want it to happen quicker, right? We all want those things and settings, regulations to be changed and turned and got rid of quicker. In an ideal world, that would be the case. But, he's in that job and I wouldn't have it for quids. And I think, again, it's up to businesses to make their own running with some of these things.
Yeah. Is there one thing you think the government could move the needle on? I'm just thinking, like, for instance, the Holidays Act stuff that came through was outside of the period of interest for this survey. That possibly would have brightened things in this room, I would have thought.
Yeah, well, the Holidays Act's been worked on, I think, since 2018, trying to improve it. It's been a nightmare for every business. I'm not sure why it takes 2 years now to get the changes in, so I'm not across that. But that happening quicker, and it seems like a good solution they have off the bat, that happening quicker would really help. So I think for all of these things, if fast track could have happened quicker and the projects actually get up and running, maybe that stimulates a bit of the economy. Look, you always want these things to be quicker. Sometimes if you're in the driver's seat, maybe it's not quite that easy.
We'll better let you back in the driver's seat. You're heading off shortly now. Thanks very much, Mark Troff here from Freightways. Good result from them. Good share price trading at the moment anyway. And that's it from us at the mood of the Boardroom today. But all of the action's online. There is a very large print report out today in the Herald. There's a huge amount of material out there, and you can dig into why people what they think, which is always interesting to hear. Thanks, Michael. Back to you.
Yeah, cheers, Garth. Thanks for your work this morning. Garth Bray of Business Desk, live from the mood of the Boardroom event with Freightways' Mark Troff here. And we talk business every day with Garth, thanks to our partners, 2 Degrees. Right, let's look at the developing news today. Katie Oliver, Herald reporter, and there's a big meeting, a big showdown at Auckland Council. What's happening?
Yes, so Auckland Council will finally be able to tell us how they will allocate the at least 2 million properties or housing across the city today. Now, they are meeting for this showdown today. Now, as we know, this is quite a controversial issue. Earlier this year, Housing Minister Chris Bishop and Auckland Minister Simeon Brown asked Auckland Council to allow for greater housing and development around City Rail Link stations, and it's something that community leaders say has been incredibly rushed. Now, opponents of this idea say that it is putting heritage communities at risk, like the Kingsland area, for example. And then people who are really supportive of it say that businesses will benefit, it's a solution to the housing problem, and so on. So we're finally going to find out today what will happen with that. Now, councillors will decide whether to continue with Plan Change 7.8, which allows for 3-storey residential buildings to be erected anywhere in the city, or take up Plan Change 120, which is a little bit more controversial, which focuses on 10 to 15-storey buildings around City Rail Link and other areas in central city. Now, will we see 10 to 15-storey buildings erected in leafy suburbs?
Probably wouldn't go down that well.
Yeah, we'll be covering that as the day goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Katie Oliver from Herald Now, thank you very much for your insights this morning. And of course, all of those developments will be online later today, nzherald.co.nz. It is 1 minute past 9. Here's Neva with the news.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Energy issues are weighing on the minds of business leaders. The Herald's annual Mood of the Boardroom survey shows they're less optimistic about the economy than they were a year ago. Rising energy prices are the biggest domestic concern, ahead of issues like inflation, infrastructure, government policy and cyber threats. General geopolitical volatility is the biggest international worry, ahead of the specific factors like US-China tariffs and US tariffs. Concerns changes around leave entitlements could see workers encouraged to take cash instead of holidays. The replacement of the Holidays Act will see a raft of changes, including flexibility of being able to take only the hours needed off work rather than a full day. There will also be more flexibility for workers to cash up leave if they have a large balance. Workers' First Union General Secretary Dennis Marga says many businesses could exploit workers to take the money over annual leave, especially with these tough economic conditions. He says they want workers to take leave and rest. Donald Trump has used his UN address to say recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas. Britain and France have formally recognised the state, joining the likes of Australia and Canada. Trump has lashed out at many nations during his speech at the UN General Assembly, touching on climate change, immigration and global conflicts. He says the act of UN members to recognise Palestine encourages continued conflict in the Middle East.
Instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Foreign Minister Winston Peters is also in New York and will tell the UN on Saturday morning what our approach to a Palestine state is. The government's being urged to let the Reserve Bank do its job without interference. It's set to announce the new governor of the central bank this afternoon. Oliver Hartwich, the executive director of the New Zealand Initiative business think tank, says the Reserve Bank needs to maintain its independence and remain focused on addressing inflation. He says government politicians also need to let the central bank do their job. Job seekers are continuing to feel the impact of the weaker economy and labour market when it comes to the salaries they're being offered. Latest data from job website Seek shows advertised salaries have risen just 2% in the past year. That's well below the rate of inflation and is a stark contrast to the 5.1% rise in salaries recorded in the same period 2 years earlier. Seek New Zealand manager Rob Clark says it's a reflection of lower demand for labour.
As we have seen for the last 18 months to 2 years, it's just been a slow decline in the growth rate of average salaries, which have increased, but just at a slowing rate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Naomi Osaka will return to the ASB Tennis Classic next year, and what she hopes is another crack at bungee jumping off Auckland Sky Tower. Her tournament debut in January ended when she retired injured from the final while up a set. England will come to Australia with a six-pronged battery of pace bowlers in a 16-strong squad as they attempt to regain cricket's ashes. Harold Dickie Bird, one of cricket's most famous umpires, has died aged 92. He stood in 66 tests and featured in 3 World Cup finals.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, a cloudier but mild start across the top of the country. Plenty of wet weather as well, running through Northland, Auckland, the Bay of Plenty through the day today. Clearer skies as we head down towards Canterbury and Otago to kick things off, but another front will bring some wetter weather in towards the south as we head through the daytime. But some of the wettest weather is up in the north as that band of rainfall runs across the top of the North Island. Some heavy bursts and the risk of even some thunderstorms through parts of Northland and Auckland. We've got a collection of severe weather watches up north through the daytime today and for the Bay of Plenty even through into Thursday. Down south though, we start off generally dry and clear. More cloud pushing towards Fiordland, some showers in towards Stewart Island as well, but generally a dry day for places like Dunedin and Queenstown. Early cloud through Canterbury should break up and clear off to leave some fine spells of sunshine and highs in Christchurch of around about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 up in Blenheim. More cloud for the North Island, but generally dry through Wellington. There will be some showers, though, remaining for Taranaki and Manawatu. But the wetter weather is up here in the north, with some particularly heavy rainfall running through and towards the Bay of Plenty throughout the day today, but also through and towards Thursday. We've got that watch in place for you. And it's a cloudy, wet day across Auckland, Northland and the Waikato region, with that rainfall turning to showers, but still with some fairly heavy and perhaps thundery bursts even into this afternoon.
And that is it for today. We'll be back from 7 tomorrow morning. For more news, go to nzherald.co.nz. A quick thanks to our partners, Forsyth Bar, You Do It, Barkers, Max, 2 Degrees, GJ Gardner, Dilma and Noel Leeming. From the team at Herald Now, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We'll be back again tomorrow.